Hello, everyone, and welcome to this fast chat with wealthmanagement.com. I'm joined today by Gretchen Good from SS&C Black Diamond. She's a senior VP at the Trust and Retirement Services. And we're going to be talking about how to elevate modern trust services. Thanks so much for joining us, Gretchen.
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for having me.
So let's jump right into this, Gretchen. You've worked closely with trust companies and wealth institutions throughout your career. How would you describe the current state of the digital transformation in the trust industry? What's really causing change?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've spent the last 20 plus years working with trust companies, wealth managers. And, I think a lot of it is like remembering that the trust business is fundamentally, I think, different in a lot of ways from what I think of as like the traditional RIA advisory business, in the sense that, the trust business has never been very tech forward. And I think that that's kind of by design, right? You think about a trust account, and that thing is meant to withstand literal generations, right? So this is never going to be the industry that like goes whatever way the wind blows, right? It's going to come from a place of like a decision made out of having seen a lot of other evidence that things make sense. So when we're thinking about like digital transformation and what's accelerating change, it's taken a long time to get to this place, but I think we're really at the place now where, digital tools for clients are table stakes. We're having a really sophisticated web presence have become table stakes. We got in this business, like I said, 20 years ago, and we were a startup then, which then all of the technology had been built in the 80s. So it was mainframes, and we were like in the cloud before it was a cloud. And it took us, like I said, 20 years to really for that to become table stakes. So I think we're now at the point where the tools that the end investor expects to have, sophisticated tools like you would get from a big name brokerage or from your advisor, are also what the clients are expecting from trust companies. And I also think that that now in the big generational wealth transfer that everybody's talking about, going from the boomers to the generations down and Gen X is in there, they all have become much more technically savvy over the years. And so that's really, I think, a lot of what's behind it is that these accounts now, these clients now expect those types of tools.
Yeah, it's interesting. 10 years ago, I'm an estate planning attorney by trade, but when I joined the sort of financial advice industry and heard everyone complaining about sort of how slowly technology was being adapted, I was like, oh boy, where do you see what's going on the estate side of things? It's like, this is slow. So I hear exactly what you're talking about. I think there's a bit of a misconception out there about trust companies as sort of these monolithic, impersonal sort of organizations, but we're seeing growing demand from sort of high net worth and ultra high net worth families for more holistic and personalized services across industries. How are trust companies sort of evolving to stay competitive and meet these client expectations for a more sort of personalized experience?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because as I was kind of thinking about this, I actually think trust companies have always been good at you think of them as monoliths, but they're actually very skilled relationship builders in very much an old school sense, right? Mm-hmm. Of understanding these family dynamics over time and, really understanding what a lot of the high net worth investors are expecting. The ways that I see them evolving, what we're seeing more is like data aggregation across accounts, so you can see a consolidated view, a full holistic picture of wealth management. We're also seeing, more of the digital tool sets becoming more readily available. And, we're even seeing them get into like more alternative assets, right? Where usually it used to be like, we don't touch that stuff. We're not going anywhere near that with a 10-foot pole. Well, now advisors and investors are saying, actually, we want to be exposed to real estate, to hedge funds, to, I don't even want to say crypto, but crypto is in there too. Right? And so we're seeing more and more of that.
So, Gretchen, we're seeing an increasing overlap between RIA and trust services. What do you think is driving this convergence, and how should trust companies be thinking about collaboration or even integration with the broader wealth management ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely something we've been seeing for quite a while in the space. I think we're seeing it from a couple of different angles, right? There's the trust companies that have sort of historically not offered as much in the investment management and wealth space, right? And so we've been helping them kind of beef up their tools and getting the more modern tool set that comes with servicing in an advisory type of a way, right? So it's performance measurement, it's portfolio management, it's having the digital client experience that's much more sophisticated than they've traditionally offered. And so I think we've been seeing trust companies kind of rising to this challenge. On the other end of it, we've got the RIAs, and they're thinking about dipping their toe into the trust business. And what does it mean to wear the fiduciary hat, and what does it mean to manage discretionary distributions, and sort of the types of things that trust companies traditionally think about. And then there's like the hybrid model, which I think is very interesting. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here, where, the trust companies do what they have always done well, right? The administration, the RIAs do what they have always done well, which is a lot of the investment management. And then marrying those two together in a way where everybody does their piece of it that they've always kind of done. And they bring it together in a way that unifies the data, that creates kind of a single client experience, and that lets kind of the best of both worlds exist. So I think we're seeing kind of a number of different approaches to how these worlds are coming together.
Yeah, I know there's always been a sort of a tradition of, particularly in the financial advice industry, and to a lesser extent in the estate planning industry and trust industry, of being highly protective of clients and very sort of reticent to send them across the street, so to speak, for things that you maybe aren't necessarily an expert in. But this trend really strikes me as sort of a rising tide, sort of that lifts all boats, where sort of the trust companies have quite a bit to offer the financial advisors and vice versa, where it can be a highly sort of mutually beneficial arrangement. So, pulling things, back in a little bit to talk about SS&C Black Diamond specifically. I know that you've recently have undergone a bit of a rebrand with the Trust and Retirement Services, moving from the Innovest brand to SS&C Black Diamond Wealth Solutions. What does this switch mean for clients, and how does it really align with where the industry is headed?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And, shout out to our marketing team. They have done a tremendous job. These types of things, you don't realize that they're years in the making. And so they've done an incredible job working on this. This is a long time in the making. And it really is, to me, it's a market signal around our commitment to delivering integrated, well-connected solutions that play very nicely together, and as you would expect. And this has been something we've been working on for a long time, right? SS&C has been a business that has grown historically by acquisitions, right? It's a huge business, but a lot of the business model has been driven around like buying the best of breed of any individual technology, and a lot of it has been letting them continue to operate, which has been a very successful business model. But we found, especially in the wealth space, these systems play together, and we can deliver these as a comprehensive solution. And that means that we have to do the work of creating a unified client service experience, right? When they call us, even if they're calling about one product or the other product, they get a consistent answer. They get a service team that makes sense. The culture is consistent. The contracts are consistent. And so the rebrand is really kind of a market signal that we're very committed to continuing on that path. And our clients that we've had for many years, as you can imagine, trust accounting in particular is an extremely sticky business. We've known our clients for a long time. We've had our staff. We have high staff retention. We have people that have been with us for years and years, and there's a lot of subject matter expertise there. So none of that is going away. So we still have the folks that have really grown with our business, but now they're backed by greater resources, more innovation, and more access to doing the things that get us excited. So we're really pleased with the rebrand.
So I think drawing things out to more of a super macro outlook. So, what innovations or sort of areas of investment are you most excited about in the space in the future going forward?
Yeah, there's a couple. So, the first and foremost, just to tie back to like the rebrand and thinking of ourselves as under the Black Diamond umbrella, there is always still work to do on like delivering consistent integration and making the look and feel across platforms more consistent. So we've started to have the design teams working cross platforms so that that all of the systems that our clients naturally use together feel like they're part of the same family, and that the data is where you would expect it to be naturally. And so I think of that as like iterative, right? That's not work that ends at a certain point. That's work that continues on. So that's a big part of what we've got planned. The other big thing that comes up and that we're excited about is automation and workflows. So we bought a business a few years ago, was Blue Prism then. And we've been integrating a lot of these workflow tools within all of the various aspects of the SS&C businesses. And so we're excited to start to deliver some of those things out to our clients in the coming years. Obviously we have, but more like tailor-made for what they're looking for. So in our space, trust and wealth, the one that comes to mind that I always think of for this is like opening a new account, right? Because there's all of these various pieces, right? You've got the know your client aspects of it. There's working with the custodian. There's like documents for the clients to sign. And it's industry wide been kind of a challenge. So we're excited to start to take that on. So I think we'll see that coming out in the coming, I don't know, 12 to 24 months, some nice innovations there. And then we wouldn't be having a conversation if we didn't mention AI. So of course we're talking about AI. We're thinking about it for like first from a security first perspective, right? We're in a sort of financial services, fiduciary capacity. You need to be able to understand the decisions that things are making. So taking a look at it with that lens, but the workflows, the chatbots, the mass scale personalization that has that can be offered, I think is exciting. And so that's probably a little bit further out, but also, that's the stuff that we're thinking about now, because what we're thinking about now is hopefully what, 3 years from now we're deploying out to our clients.
Well, that's about all the time that we've had. Gretchen, thank you so much. And thank you to SS&C Black Diamond also for sort of coming on here and sharing this insight with us about, trust companies and the broader industry.
Thanks, Dave. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
And also, I'd like to thank our audience for checking out this fast chat. My name's David Lennox, and I'll see you next time.